Well, hey, welcome to the RV Community for Christ podcast. We want to help you grow in your faith. We want to help you lead your family, and we want to help you influence your workplace. And today we've got a great interview for you. A good friend of mine, and probably a good friend of yours. He's been in the RV industry so long. This guy may have been when the first RV rolled out. He may have been in the plant. Faron Frey. Faron is with us today. Faron, thanks for taking time, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, all right, I'm just going to fire away some questions. This is just you and I sitting down and chatting, and you have an opportunity to speak your heart into the lives of men and women in the RV industry. So let me throw you some questions your way. Here you go. So what do you do? What's your role in the RV industry? Maybe from the beginning to your kind of your journey and where you are now.
Basically, I'm the operations manager now for Coachmen. I've been in that role for about 4 years now. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I deal with on a daily basis is working with people, working with so many different people. Anytime you deal with different people, you've got different mindsets. How do you lead? So you basically have to lead differently for everyone.
So there's no cookie cutter across the way.
No, there's
three points in a poem with everybody.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah.
And just figuring out that right niche for.
Because I honestly don't know how did you start off? Like maybe before RVs, in RVs, how old were you? What did you start off doing? What's kind of been your trajectory through from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah, basically I started like a lot of the kids did, in my era. You started out at 18, you started out working at a mobile home. So I started out at Dutch Housing when I was 18. Did that for a while, worked in construction for a while, then in 98 when I started at KZ.
Okay.
I was there for a little over 8 years. As a cabinet shop and plumbing group leader. Then from there, I worked at a place called Silver Crown. It's something like Renegade, like a big Class A looking RV. Then from there, in 2009, I went to Coachmen. And that's when...
what was your role at Coachmen when you first started?
I got hired in as a final finish group leader.
Okay.
I did that for about a year. Yeah. And then I got promoted to assistant plant manager. Then did about 6 months of that, then I got promoted to plant manager. So I did that for about 11 years. Then went to the ops side.
Okay.
Then about 3 years ago, I was the operations for all of Coachmen. So.
Okay. What was outside of the ops side when you're on the line, your boots on the ground, whether it's the different roles you had? What was your favorite? This is always interesting to me. What was your favorite thing that you did? Like whether it was final finish or it was, the areas. What as far as the work itself coming up through, before you got into the administrative, the ops side of things.
You're talking on the production side of it?
Yeah, on the production side. Yes.
Cabinet shop. I love.
Really?
I love that. It was something I did like I said, at KZ for almost 8 years.
Okay.
And it's such an art.
Yeah.
Of figuring out and making it look good when you're done.
Yeah.
That's always
very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's always interesting to me because there's so many different roles in production. There's so many, and sometimes people are doing them and they love it and they're passionate. And other times it's I can do it, but it's really cool to hear what was those things that somebody really enjoyed and why. So for you, it was the almost the art of putting these things together.
Yeah. And it was also working with different group leaders. As everyone you had to treat so differently. Show them how to do it, help them do it. And it was, I think it was John Maxwell had an interesting article about culture, about us as being in the industry for a while, how we used to manage and how we have to manage now. We keep complaining about our culture. But he just gave us a good reminder of it's not the culture's not going to change. We have to change how we manage that culture.
That's good. That's good.
So that was probably one of the biggest obstacles for me to accept. Why do I have to change? I've always done it like this.
Yeah.
But it's just And if we don't get into that mindset of how we're going to train and lead this new culture, you're always fighting against the new culture.
Then as a leader, Jesus said, if you wanna be a leader, you have to serve. If you want to live, you have to die. And the true kingdom of God, which life is really the kingdom of God. It's upside down from what we really think. That if you want to lead, you have to be a servant. And sometimes, like as a leader, I have the mentality you probably have as well, that I'm the leader. You need to change to me.
100%.
I'm the one. You do what I tell you to do.
100%.
And there is a part of that, but there's also, as a leader, like you're saying, is reading the people, reading the culture, seeing how do I need to change, how do I need to serve, so that we end up getting the same result that we needed, rather than me just being it. I always say this: is someone who's not a servant leader is actually not a leader; they're a dictator. They're just do it, and that's in our culture today. I don't know that style of leadership ever really worked, but it definitely doesn't.
I think we got by with it back in the day.
Yes.
more than they do now. Because
Yes.
right now, I think too, going back to the new culture, is we assume that they know more than they do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Growing up, we just figured
Yes.
things out.
Yes.
But now, all these new leaders, these new culture in the workforces, it's just we assume they know more than they do.
Yeah.
And then is when we start banging our head against the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
How good a job do we actually do in training and leading these people?
Yeah. And we think as leaders, a lot of times, I think in general, as a spouse as well, we as a parent, we think that people know what we know.
100%.
But they don't know until we tell them.
Right.
But we think they do. So yeah, it's all, man, I could geek out talking about leadership with you. I love talking leadership. Let's go family. Tell us about your family.
Married, have 2 kids. My wife Wanda, and she's played a crucial role in part of my success in the RV industry.
In what ways?
Just support. It's you can't do this alone.
Oh man.
No. And the whole thing with keeping work and home life separated and stuff. Without having somebody that understands that and gives you grace for that, it would be a tough journey. So yeah, I've been married for 24 years. Got 2 kids, got a boy and a girl. My daughter Alicia is 22 years old. She just graduated college in speech language pathology. So
cool.
She's got 2 more years of grad school left.
Okay.
So.
What about your son?
And he's living in Florida right now. He's 19.
He's a big boy.
He is.
My goodness.
Pumps a lot of iron.
He does.
I think his dad should do the same thing for a while. But yeah, he's living down there right now, working in the gym. He's looking to change jobs.
Okay.
But he's looking into going into the RV side of it for general RV down there.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, very cool. So, how you mentioned it a couple times. How have you balanced work and life? Because with all the different, the different lanes that I have, I'm a pastor, and then I also do like marketplace leadership training as well. And in both worlds, whether it's a senior pastor, a youth pastor, a person who attends church, or a group leader, a line worker, a PA, every single person that I've pretty much ever talked with, in some regard, one of the tension points is is work-life balance.
Right.
Is when I'm home, the question I get so often, when I'm home, how can I actually be home? And I'm sure you've failed at that. I'm sure you've done great at that at times. Yeah. How have you done that? Because I've seen you from afar, and it seems to me like there's been a lot of seasons where you've done that well, and probably some not. But so kind of speak into that.
That's probably been one of my hardest obstacles.
Okay.
To really master, and I don't know if somebody ever gets it totally mastered.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I see is you have to be intentional. When you leave work, you have to leave work. That's just what you have to do. I know early on in management, in my years of management, it was been, you were home, but you were still at work.
Yeah.
Then you get into these mindsets of, in management at work, especially in the RV world, it's, somebody comes to you with a problem. Well, half of your brain is listening to this guy, and the other half is trying to fix it.
Yeah. Yes.
So you get home, you know, and you're being a husband, you're being a dad, and, you know, you come home, your wife has a hard day. All she wants you to do is listen. She doesn't want you to fix it. You know, just shut up and listen, you know. But, you know, getting out of that,
let me fix your
boss, let me help you fix it, you know, coming home and just, you know, listen to hear, don't listen to respond. You know,
so you
and
discovered that Wanda doesn't need a group leader.
Yeah, exactly. She just needs you to shut up and listen for a while. But yeah, and that's so hard because that's what you do all day long. Is you know, you're a problem solver. You always want to help it. You want to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not what they're after.
How do you do it? How do you like that phrase like leave it at work? I've got a couple tricks that I'll do. How do you do it? I mean, how do you tangibly do that? If you were to give somebody some advice, even or something that you've done that's worked for you.
Physically close your door, your office door when you leave.
Okay.
And physically be conscious of what you're doing.
I like that.
You know, when that door clicks.
Yeah.
Now you're done.
Yeah.
You know, but technology and you know your phones and emails, you know, they never stop.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes you have to take care of stuff, but, you know, try to minimize, you know, if there's something that can wait till the next day, it'll still be there. You know, you don't have to answer every email.
And the thing I've discovered is most of the time it can wait till the next day. I feel like emotionally I can't.
Right.
But it can. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, there's some times where it's like I got to hit this now. I remember one time Veronica was. And you know Veronica, she's not pushy or overbearing in any way, shape, or form in our relationship. But like Wanda with you, she helps me stay when I'm home. I need you home. And I remember one time we're all sitting around the table, and it was, you know, kids are there, Veronica's there, we're eating. I'm sitting at the table, but I was at the table, but I wasn't at the table. I mean, I'm still problem solving. I'm thinking about something I got to do, and I remember I'll never forget this. I remember it vividly. She, as we're eating, she just kind of leans up and she taps the table and gets my attention, and she just whispers, "I need you here. Like, I need you here." Yeah. I'll just never forget that. I need you here, and yeah. So for me, one of the things that I do, and I'm sure you do, I love to close the door. I think we have to do physical things. To emotionally and mentally unplug. So for me, I call it a brain dump. Is at the end of the day, I will, what needs to be done, who do I need to talk with, I got a checklist every day, what did I not get done, and I'll do literally not just a mental note, but in my little notebook that I have, I'll write down a couple of to-dos, the unfinished things. I'll physically take it out of my mind and write it into a notebook and then close the notebook. That helps me.
I was just going to follow up with that. That's what I like to do too, because I like to leave the office be on my way home by 3 o'clock.
Okay.
You know, once it gets past, you know, gets close to 2:30, you know, what's left. Then you start making notes for the next day, and that helps you as well when you're at home because you know what you wrote down. You know you're not going to forget.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps you set the stage for.
You got nothing good just happens.
Right.
You got to make it happen.
Yes.
So you're not just being home when you're home is a good thing, but it just doesn't be like, oh wow, I'm here, it worked. You gotta, especially when people listen to this are this way too. When you're passionate about what you do, and you like what you do, and what you do just isn't what you do. It's kind of who you are, which is a good thing. That's why you're successful at what you do in life. It's hard.
It is.
It's very.
But
it's hard.
You have to choose to want to change if you're not in that position.
Absolutely.
You know, and like I said, I've got a saying on my whiteboard that's been there for 16 years now. You know, if nothing changes, nothing changes, and I think it's.
Say that again. I like that statement.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. Got that saying from Dan Seaborn, who's at a marriage conference, and it was, you know, he preached for the whole day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he said, if you guys didn't get anything out of this conference, remember this, and he left us with that. And that holds a lot of merit.
It does. I've heard you say that a few times, and I've been driving down the road trying to problem solve, and I'll hear your voice. If nothing changes, nothing changes. For me, that statement is your voice. For you, it's Dan.
Yeah.
It's Dan. But so, how did you tell us about your faith journey? I know you and I knowing each other. I know that you are a strong believer in Jesus, walking with Jesus. It's just not go to church on Sunday for you. It's a lifestyle. How did you come to Christ, and what's kind of your faith journey look like?
Well, growing up Amish, it's you growing up, you knew of God, but I don't think I really knew God.
Okay.
Then growing up and getting married, and we had kids, and I think the turning point was back in 2008 is when Tyson, my son, was 2 years old. He fell and had a significant head injury, and he was in the hospital for 38 days. And
Wow.
that first week, totally pretty much in a coma, not knowing.
How old was the little guy?
2 years old. Not knowing the outcome, is he ever going to wake up? And there were so many uncertainties, and having probably the church community come together and and being part of it and walking you along that journey. It's something that we've never experienced before. And there were so many God moments through that journey. He was in there for 38 days. And through that 38 days, every test that we got back was always the same or better.
Wow.
And it was just,
Wow.
God's hands and feet were all over that. Yeah. So I think that was probably one of my biggest turning point in my faith.
That's whenever you went from believing there is a God and being a person of faith to actually, maybe for the first time, really truly needing Him.
Right.
And seeing Him come through. You're like, oh, there might be something to this.
It was totally being dependent. When that's all you have to lean on.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine somebody going through a situation like that wouldn't have family, church community.
Yes.
To help you walk that road.
Absolutely.
I cannot imagine what that would be like.
How has faith impacted you in the workplace? Because you've gone from trailers to RVs to production to group leader to now upper management. All along this way, how has faith impacted you? How have you kind of like tried to walk it out?
I think people knowing, the people that you're around, knowing that you're a Christian and you're a believer, helps hold you accountable. I think they hold you to a higher standard. Being reminded, situations come up, they look at you, how do I respond?
Yes.
Do I respond like everybody else?
Yeah.
Or do I actually keep my stuff together and actually respond the way I need to?
Yeah. And you've never messed that up before.
Many times. But the crazy thing is, soon as you do mess it up, you get that little Holy Spirit prompting.
Yes.
It's like,
yes,
you really messed this one up bad.
Yeah. And it's a journey.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's a journey.
It's learning, get away from those knee-jerk reactions. And think about what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's huge. So a couple more questions. Whenever we had Maynard on here, I asked him this same thing. I don't know that I'll ask every person I interview, but it's always interesting to me and intriguing because I've got a few of my own. What would you say is if you had a favorite Bible verse, or maybe it's a story, what is it in the Bible that from, like Dan Seaborn's quote, if nothing changes, nothing changes. What's a verse in the Bible you keep maybe coming back to, whether you know the address or not, whether it's, or it's a story that for some reason it motivates you. You keep coming back to.
Probably Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. But he reminds us of that. But we have to choose to believe that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If we truly seek that, He will provide for us. But we have to make that choice.
Very much so. Yeah. I love. So when it comes to that verse, some of the things I've thought about in that, it says, be strong, be courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And in that moment, he felt fear, he felt anxiety, and God was saying, listen, don't you feel how you feel, but don't be how you feel.
Right.
You feel fearful, but you are not fearful. You're courageous. You feel anxious, but no, you feel weak. No, you be strong, be courageous. And those comes back to, like you were saying, so you got to choose it. You got to choose it. So that's a passage that you keep coming back to.
You know, and probably the biggest story in the Bible was I always admired Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when he was, sold into slavery, then his brothers came back,
Mm-hmm.
And the love and compassion he shared to them,
Yeah.
feeding them, knowing what they did to him.
Yeah.
I think that is, I think that's a good example for us as we're doing life, because, we get railroaded, we get betrayed by a lot of people, and do we, when it comes down to it, would we be the ones filling their grain bags?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting in the story of Joseph too. I don't want to get my preach on here, but it's interesting with his story is when that wasn't the first time that he had done that type of an act of being faithful or doing the right thing when it was hard. Because whenever he was sold into slavery, he's a slave, but he worked hard for his master, even though slavery's wrong, but he worked hard for his master and he got promoted. Then he was wronged by the master's wife. He got put in jail, but then he worked hard and he served in prison. And then he served the butler and the baker. You see this, even though he was the favorite child, so to speak, you see a servant's heart all the way through. And for me, in that story, that's interesting is he did do that at the end, which is amazing. But it was all throughout his life. This was a characteristic that God kept putting him in places of how do you treat other people the right way? How do you treat other people the right way? And it's cool it's cool for me from knowing you that's a story that resonates with you, because Joseph is someone who kind of came up through the ranks. You've kind of come up through the ranks. He's had a servant's heart. How can I help other people? And even when you're talking about being in the cabinet shop, you were talking about you enjoyed the art of it, but also serving the different group leaders and the people. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not a psychologist, but it's interesting with me with that story with you, because there's definitely a lot of similarities between you and Joseph. That's cool.
Oh, wow. Never thought about that.
Yeah. So last question. If you had to give somebody a piece of advice, you're talking, who knows how many people will listen to this in the RV industry, people specifically, maybe even in the RV industry, whether it's personal, professional, or whether it's a little nugget for each. What would you say? What advice would you give?
Probably the biggest thing is, like we talked about earlier here, is about, balancing family and work. I think that is probably one of the biggest obstacles. But, a lot of the times, we try to control what we can't. And I think, control what's in our span of control is probably one of the biggest things, because I think that is when all the stress and anxiety settles in, is when we're trying to do more than we're able.
Wow.
But, I
control what you can control.
Yeah, control what you can control.
Man,
and be where your feet are.
Sit on that one a little bit. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, it's just, if you really think about it, be where your feet are. We're always, I think it's good to dream, to have goals, but at some point you still have to live your daily life.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, and we're 2 years ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that is when a lot of pressure comes. You put a lot of pressure on yourself, because, that's not reality. You still have to be where your feet are.
Yeah. And sometimes, I know for me, me projecting into the future, I'm so worried about next month, or I'm so worried about maybe the next position that I want to get, that I'm not all the way where I am right now,
right.
Which then suffers right now, absolutely. Which then keeps me from going to where I need to go. I went through a small season like that in my life, and it goes right along. So control what you can control. And then when you were saying that second part, it reminded me of a statement I'll tell my kids a lot. That if you put your heart into what God has already placed into your hands, you never have to worry where your feet are.
Oh, wow.
If this is where I am, this is what God put in my hand, I'm going to go all in with my heart, man. I'm all in. And if we do that, we don't have to worry about where our feet go. Like wow. Joseph. Right. Joseph just went all in with his family. Well, he ended up being a slave. All in being a slave. Well, he ended up being in prison. Went all in being a prisoner. Then he ended up being, he just, wherever his heart was, this cat just went all in.
Wow.
And
that's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I see that in you for sure, man. For real. the few years that we've hung out and talked, I see a guy who's loves his family well, loves your wife, loves your kids, all in with them at the same time being all in with work. And I know that balance, you probably feel like that balance hasn't been there all the time. I'm sure Wanda would say the same, but from a guy from the outside looking in, man, I see it.
Oh, it's definitely not all figured out. Better than it used to be, I can say that.
Now, one last thing. You, when RVCC started, you were there pretty much day one, that original email that went out.
Yeah.
You're a board member because of season of life, and you stepped off the board, but you're still integrally involved with RVCC. Why did you jump into RVCC? Why should people? And again, we're not so much about RVCC. We're about Jesus. We want to help people find Jesus, not be a part of a program. But how has this being a part of the RVCC community helped you? Why did you get started, and what would you talk a little bit about that journey? Then
I think the biggest thing that, why I got started, obviously Maynard, being my brother-in-law and everything, and he shared his vision, and the interest, and Maynard has shared this in the past as well, is about the amount of interest that was shown from, other RV divisions or even vendors. That was really an eye-opener. Then also, as we get started, the first couple of years, people that you've known for years, you never knew of their faith or if they were of the faith.
Yeah.
And people start sharing their faith with you.
Yeah.
And it just gets pretty cool. You're in the office talking about work, and next thing you know, you're talking about, how can I pray for you? The conversation goes to goes much deeper than just work.
Yeah.
So and your relationships grow like that.
So it's been an opportunity for you to see there are a whole lot of other believers in the RV industry, and for them to see that as well. So it's becoming an avenue for people to not only draw closer to Jesus themselves, but also share Jesus with others.
Right.
Yeah, I like it.
And I think they're not scared to share their faith, but it was just something that was never really came into the conversation.
This is something that kind of just
it was the spark.
A little match.
Right.
It's kind of, there's a fire there. It's kind of smoldering there, but this is giving you, whether it's our Iron Men event or a Gals event or a real big fall event, there's something that kind of ignites, say, hey, would you like to come? Or hey, have you heard about? Which then spurs into more things. Well, man, thank you so much for answering that first email with Maynard and getting RVCC started. And again, we've talked about this at the board level a lot, is we're not about RVCC, we're about Jesus.
Right.
But being a group of guys and gals coming together under the banner of Jesus, it really, truly does help get a spark in our life as well as others.
Good.
So thanks for being a part today, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Yes, enjoyed it.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Hey, be sure to check out the website. Be sure to check out, we have a daily devotional that goes out, and man, it is incredible. It's absolutely free. It comes every single morning to your email, and if you have not signed up for that Devo, go to our RVCommunityforchrist.com and check that out. We'll talk to you next time.